guys, and welcome back. It is another video here on Serviceable. Once again, my name is Cassie, and in my first 6 months of starting a business I had zero experience in, I secured over £100,000 in contracts. How did I do it? Zero experience? How was it possible? This channel is all about how. Maybe you're a budding entrepreneur, you don't know anything about business, but it could be cost of living. It could just be you've always known you had a knack for it, but you're not sure where to start. This is for you, beginner. This channel is for you. We're going to navigate this together. The first thing I want us to discuss are tech companies, tech businesses. This sort of launch of the tech company is something that has come about in the last 20 to 25 years or so. Of course, we've seen it through Apple, through Microsoft, and of course through a lot of like fintech companies, health tech companies. These tech businesses, they have to go through a series of fundraising rounds. So maybe they'll have an angel investor, a high net worth or ultra high net worth individual who will say, hey, I'm going to give you £2 million. I'm going to give you £1 million. I'm going to give you 500K for that business idea. Or they may go through what we call the VC route. So they'll maybe have a venture capitalist or venture capital sort of firm who will assist them in essentially giving them the funding, maybe £1 million, £2 million, depending on where they're at in that funding cycle and how early the business is. The reason why those kind of businesses need to raise such an enormous amount of money is because their business model is like a disruptor. For a couple of years, their businesses, in terms of their modeling, will typically fail. They'll be losing money until they start turning a profit. And because of these angel investors, these VC firms, what they do and how they make money is they will do this same practice of investing in a bunch of companies, maybe 10, and 9 of them will burn through the cash and they'll fail. And those people understand that they will likely lose that money, that 9 mil, let's say if they invested 1 million in each. But they may have one company who, as they had shown in the pitch deck, will actually perform, be successful, and will make up for the loss of the other companies. And they'll actually earn that investor or that VC company way more money. And that will be like the unicorn for them. That will be this is the reason why we invested. Now on this channel, I'm speaking from a perspective of creating what we would call a boring business. Having a commercial cleaning company or a service business is that boring business, essentially, that will make you money and it is guaranteed. Now, why am I saying guaranteed? Does it mean that because I start it and I create my website and I click a button that it will be successful? No, there's some grind on your side that you'll need to do. But what I'm saying is that you are not, through having a commercial cleaning company, through having a window cleaning company, a pest control company, maybe a security agency, any of those kind of companies where there's a service that is being provided, they are tried and tested. You're not the first to go into it. And that, as opposed to that earlier example I gave of those high growth tech innovative companies, that is your superpower. It is because you know it's a tried and tested model that you do not have to consider and scratch your head and say, do people want this? Is this going to work? It will work. But what you will need to do is now survey your market and say, okay, what is my niche? Just as an example, when I started our commercial cleaning company, I had originally thought, let's go into domestic cleaning, which would be tenancies, end of tenancy cleans, deep cleans, that kind of situation. Until I started looking at some of the operational side of things. And I realized it's going to take a lot of my time to be coordinating, let's say, a car, maybe a van that's going to be going to these different sites. We're going to have quite a high early investment or cash injection to buy all of the equipment that we need and to also train up the operatives, the cleaning operatives that we'll be working with. I might have to be on site myself, also involved. All of that is quite time consuming. And it's also not necessarily on a recurring income sort of basis. So I looked and I said, I think the commercial model would be more compatible with my lifestyle, given I am not full time as running this company. That wasn't the plan from the start, as it would be if you were in, launching your tech company. It would be your full focus. You're giving it your full attention. That's part of the package. So I needed to think, what will work for me, but earn me the income, get the contracts. And that's how I decided to go into commercial. When I would get an interested client and I would now be able to go on site, look and get a feel for what their premises looked like, it also helped me in my knowledge. And I was just looking around, and I could also gauge what kind of commercial grade equipment are some of my competitors using. And I'd be able to say, okay, so what product? I'd be asking the client this, what kind of products or what areas are you dissatisfied with? So they'd say, we're getting this residue on the floor. So I now look at what they're using and say, okay, I know to either change this or know what this is good for, or be able to, get that sort of expertise. So that's something that I thought was really, really helpful. And that's why looking at these kind of boring business models, they allow you to do something that is tried and tested. And because the market is so saturated, it's a good thing, because you get to learn as you go. You get to learn from your competitors, and their access to them, like I said, is quite, and I'll use a financial term, I'll say is quite liquid. They're quite accessible. To now for Meta to understand what Microsoft is doing, maybe they have a competitive business line. They have to wait for Microsoft to release some sort of press release, or they hire someone who used to work at Microsoft and they get the intel. But it's not a real time, we know what they're doing and we can also pivot and iterate based on what they're doing. But when you're working in this kind of boring standard business, it's not a sexy tech company that you'll be hearing about and you'll be seeing in big red lights. It's just something that will quietly help you accumulate a lot of money. The information is already readily there. You're able to quickly get to grips with what is needed, and it's a standard, easy business model that you can follow. The second thing that I want you to note for this is also starting as lean as possible. Now, this also, I'm using a bit of a technical term, and I started going into it a little bit on the previous point. What does it mean to be lean? Lean is referring to this book. It's really popular. It's called The Lean Startup, and I'd recommend looking into it. The Lean Startup, and it's all about how to start your business in the most cost-effective, efficient way. It's really valuable for anybody who is getting into business and wants to understand how to not incur too many costs early. So remember, costs are linked to risk. All my initial costs were in just working with my first ever client was, of course, incorporating the business, because they're relating with you as a company, as an organization, a limited company if you're in the United Kingdom or anywhere else. It needs to be legally recognized so you can relate with each other contractually. Incorporation fee, of course, putting together our banking and everything like that, which typically should be free. And really, it was just the equipment costs that were the biggest thing for us. Lean, remember, low risk. So the boring business model that we're talking about, the reason why it thrives, like we were saying, is because it's accessible. There are people everywhere who need this. So you don't need to immediately be investing in ads. So we're talking about B2B, all right? Just using the commercial cleaning example, which is business to business marketing. Business to business marketing, you don't necessarily immediately have to go into Facebook ads, Instagram ads, all of those things. You can literally pick up the phone and just call the company that you would be prospecting, that you would want to sell to. That is the direction of thought. We're thinking about, how can I, with low risk, your circumstances could change. You could need to move countries. You could suddenly be, now planning for a family. I don't know, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. there are things in life that can affect your business. So we want to keep your risk low. So should you want to exit for whatever reason, it's easy for you to. Okay, guys, so I think just with everything that has been shared today, we have said a lot. The main things are to monitor your costs. So we said starting lean, making sure that you're not taking on too much risk too early in case you need to iterate. And then we also spoke about starting a boring business. You don't necessarily have to jump on the tech startup wave where you're investing all your time, and in 3 years, you are very aware that what you're building, it might not work for reasons that are beyond your input. Can be market conditions, other things. Start a boring, tried, and trusted business, and that model will always work for you. Once again, guys, my name is Cassie. This has been another, episode, video, whatever you want to call it, on Serviceable today. We're going to talk more and more in the incoming weeks about how you can launch your business and how it can be a success. I'll see you guys later. See you. Bye.